Good morning. I'm Richard Miller. I'm in Australia. I'm in Queensland. I'm in the home of Rena's son. And I'm enjoying hospitality. I'm enjoying Australia. And I'm enjoying being cared for and kind of seeing myself without stress and accepted by others. And it's very opening. I'm able to see myself in a new way. And I feel that life is more and more magical in the sense that it's just kind of unfolding by itself without too much of my participation or too much of my forcing or too much of my direction. And yet I'm the same guy that has his preferences and kind of sets things up to keep moving and keep discovering and keep the adventure. And so lately we've been frequenting a forum. I believe it's Eckhart Tolle Forum, and we've been meeting more and more people, and we've even had the honor to suggest some topics of discussion. And so then I'm in a part of Rena's life that allows me to meet Doreen Connor. So hello, Doreen, and thanks for coming over.
Hi, Richard. Thanks for having me. It's really wonderful to meet the both of you.
You guys really have something going on this forum where you've known each other for a long time, not always visually, but certainly audio and certainly chats and sharing your ideas and thoughts. And I'm sure it goes kind of deep. And at the same time, when many times we share what we think and we feel that we're trying to convince others or we're trying to verify, well, we're probably trying to verify if what we think is commonly held. And this is a model for how we are with everybody in our community. We're just trying to see if we fit in and if that's how life is lived, or what are we missing. Sometimes when the younger generations see us, and we're questioning and we're digging into our lives and wondering, what's right and what's wrong. Right or wrong maybe is not the right way to explain it. What's effective and what's not effective. And I'm wondering if the generations, they think we're confused, or haven't led a life that led us anywhere. It led us to questioning, even in our maturity. And we're supposed to kind of have it figured out and pass our knowledge on to them, but maybe we're looked at as deficient parents. Like, now I got to take care of them because it's so clear to me, and those guys are into questioning their lives and saying, who am I and what is this? And
The who am I is a basic question, I think, for everyone.
what is it? We just don't get to it for a while, or
Yeah,
you just say,
yeah, exactly. We don't get to it for a while. We get to it on a certain external level. I remember being in, I think, high school we had a theme once in our English class, or I don't remember exactly which class it was, asking the question, who am I? Who am I? So it's something that it's presented to us to ask this question. But whether or not, well, I think we're always asking that question in some way. And for some of us, life just sort of moves us along into going deeper with that question. Well, I don't know why. I don't know why that happens to some people and not to others. But maybe it's happening to everyone, I think, in some way.
Well, it just doesn't cross our mind, because I'll share this. Like, I think I was in 8th grade, and our English teacher had us write a life story. And so then I got all these pictures together, because we used to go out for 2 weeks every summer to somewhere in Wisconsin or somewhere in Michigan, and go out on a lake and go fishing and swimming and or camping or whatever. And I got all those pictures together and said, oh, this year we went on vacation here, this year we went on vacation there, that year, blah, blah, blah. And so then I turned it in, and I was so proud of all those pictures, and I'd recovered all that whole chain of events. And my teacher said, like, well, what happened between your vacations? And then I was like, is that living? I don't know. I was doing my life story. I mean, what is that crap? So it just never crossed our mind, like, I mean, there's more to life than just whatever pops up.
Yeah, I mean, as a relatively young child, I mean, I don't know exactly how old when it got started. I mean, I remember really being influenced by watching the Civil Rights Movement and Martin Luther King Jr. and having just a deep feeling that something wasn't right in the world, that we were told to love one another, and yet people weren't able to actually do that. And so when I look back at that time, I see that was like a question I had. And it was like, this was a search that I was on that I didn't know I was on. I never knew I was on that search until I had more awakening experiences that culminated into realizing I've always been looking for this unconditional love, that not just that I become aware of my own unconditional love, or to receive unconditional love, because actually it's not something we really receive, it's something that we are. But I had this longing to see people being able to love each other unconditionally.
So appearances are, we live in a conditional world. So then anything unconditional would not really be of the world, or would not seem to fit there, right?
Well, the world, I mean, as a child, I was so disappointed in the world. I felt like I was being told all the time, you have to accept this is the way it is. And I couldn't understand that. And then when I had an awakening, one of the first things that dawned on me was, wow, it's not like that. It's not that we have to accept that. Things are changing. It's going to unfold. It's unfolding into this, into the love. because it was used to be like, my life was not, mm, I was pretty complacent with my life by the time I, had my children. Um, they were still young, but things were like, oh, this is life. Life sucks and then you die. It's like, just, it's okay. It's okay. But I knew something was, but I didn't really know something was missing. It wasn't that something was missing. I just felt like this is it. This is life. Sucks and then you die. But that's not what happened. And then I started to awaken, and it's like completely the opposite. It's like, in fact, there is no death, and life is fantastic. Life is wonderful. Life is incredible. Life is love. I was just like, wow, dream came true. Wow. Lightning, thunder. Yeah, and just like it unfolds. It's not getting, and it's just, it's fresh every day, and it's deepening. And, I have like, I don't think hope is not the word really, but I see that everyone's unfolding into this in some way. If it may not happen for someone to realize it in this lifetime, perhaps. I don't know. I have no idea about those things exactly. I only know that I see a lot of people starting to recognize this to a certain extent. And
it's said that nobody can see anything that they haven't seen in themselves, right? And so then,
yes, yeah,
when we start to see the world so-called unfolding, it must mean that we've done it too, or otherwise we wouldn't be seeing it. And when we're seeing it more and more, it must mean that we're unfolding more and more, so we can see, if you want to call it levels, but something's new, some new energies and things that we didn't see before. And sure, those other people, everyone's not going to see the same thing. They're only going to see what's unfolded for them, and what has relaxed and what has stepped back. And so then we can say these things like there's a great urge to write some labels, to say something, to interpret something life, and then we come to something that allows us to rest. And it might be something like life sucks and then you die. And we just say, okay, now that's over with, now I can just gut it out, right? And hopefully I'll wiggle around and won't suffer too much. And we never used to think that the world was fragile and that maybe it won't last as long as we do, We never used to think of those things. I mean, of course, it will last way longer than we do, but maybe not in the same format. If some kind of things, too much things melt and too much water goes around, but who cares, really? The world doesn't care if the sea level's higher or lower. I mean, it's just the guys that live on the coast that care. And so then now we can say, okay, now we've got another series of explanations that life is wonderful, right? But maybe that's not just an explanation that we're numb to, and that we just kind of hunkered down and saying life is wonderful, or spread our arms and say life is wonderful. Maybe that's something that gets verified every minute, every second, every moment. And then, and we can say that freshly every time, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas saying life sucks, I don't know. I don't think saying life sucks is fresh every moment.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't fresh at all. It was like just nothing, not really living, not really depression, basically. Life sucks and then you die. It's kind of an undercurrent of that. I mean, for me personally, I wasn't really depressed when I could say those words, but I've known that feeling of depression, and I knew, like, this is just kind of, where there was something I just always felt that I could go deeper with somehow, and just in communion with people, that somehow our connections I knew were deeper somehow, but they weren't being it wasn't being recognized. Awareness, that we weren't aware of it. I mean, I think it's just always there. I think we might be able to say that it's always there, because I can look back now on the past in which I felt maybe depressed or bereft of this feeling of, it's like a loneliness kind of feeling, that am I the only one that wants to see this love in everyone, or can see this love in everyone? And from the present moment, all of those experiences and feelings just, I don't know, the best word for me is transmuted. It becomes transmuted. And it's as if it all served a purpose within my life to contribute to the awakening.
Sometimes something like a universal love is kind of abstract. It comes from some scriptures or something like that. But the way you say it, it wasn't abstract, and somehow, so it was always there, and somehow, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like really remembering, like, way back. I mean, this is something I feel like everybody can somehow get in touch with this. I mean, it takes a little bit of, I could call myself like a visual person. I don't know if that's true or not, compared to what other people, how they see. I mean, I used to see a lot of images. Images are always popping up in my head, and, memories come as images. Anyway, but part of my seeing is like, when I see someone now, I just see straight through them to, like, the baby that they were, that they are, is like, that it's always there, that real, the innocence, it never leaves us. It's just there. And it's really been, it's unfolded. I mean, it's not that I could, it just took some clock time for that to be just a natural way that I meet people. You can't force this with your thinking about it. There's no way. And there's no need to. It just gets, like, triggered in your heart or something, or not triggered, not the word, but lit up in your heart. Like, it's there, it's in there. It just needs to get, like, uncovered.
Or liberated.
Yeah. Liberated is a good word. Yeah. Because the liberation is there.
What comes to me is we have certain tools to manage our life, and some of them are very, very blunt. And we don't really have we're not a surgeon, So then we can cut some things out, but when we cut something out, we don't do it like, uh, you know, it's not really focused on what we want to cut out. It's kind of like a mass, well, numbness is the word that comes up, but I mean, whatever we, because our tool is so blunt, whenever we go for eliminating something, we eliminate all the good stuff too around it. And what we said, liberated from your heart, in other words, we're using this metaphor of a heart and of a heart that's covered or somehow blocked, or, but I mean, if we, it's so easy to pull ourselves away from anything, because we have this mechanism where things are separate and objectified by merely saying a couple of words. And of course, without those words, we don't know. You know, they're in our life.
I think sorry, I'm sorry, did I interrupt? I just feel like that the words hardly touch the feeling within. I mean, it's the only thing I have at the moment for communication with this. But for example, touching someone, hugging someone, this is like transmitting the same information. I mean, there's so many ways, in a sense, to speak about what's in your heart. It's not necessarily the words, you know. That's just, they just come, the words come. And, you know, many people aren't going to believe it because it has to be self-realization. It just, you know, what is self-realization? It's like, is it a string of a lot of little awakenings? How they come together? There's like a thread that runs through it all, and then, you know.
Well, that's going to be there too. That'll be there too. But I mean, what did you mean that people aren't going to believe this?
No, I mean, like, when you just, it has to be self-experience, you know, one's own experience. It's not about belief, in other words. It's about knowing. But only
is belief a starting point? Is that, can you somehow get in the door by a belief, or is a belief just a blockage, a closed door?
I don't know. I think it's like questioning all the beliefs. I think it's when the beliefs fall away, then there's a freshness to it. It's not like a belief has to be proved. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, well, you know, there's a combination of things happening. Like you're feeling a universal love, let's say, and you're feeling that somehow it could be less obscure than this, and maybe that comes from partially a belief, or, you know, or a conviction of some kind. Whatever that conviction is, there probably is a belief element in it too, and a conviction, whatever a conviction might be, it must be that you had a taste of it, or you also desire it to be.
It came up for me sort of like that I would just start like writing about it and talking about it, and it was based on also having experiences around it, and, you know, how it all interweaves is impossible for me to say. Like, how did I start to express this? And I was like, you know, you've heard about the people like sitting on the fence. You've got one leg in the old world, one leg in the new, you know, in the new earth, or whatever you want to say. In awakening, you're like sitting on this fence, you know, and some days you're like, how can I be talking about universal love when uh, a friend is angry at me and not understanding what I'm going through right now, etc. I mean, it was like, there's a lot of things that just sort of fall away. Um, it can't be explained.
Right.
That's the
Okay,
thing.
well,
It's
one
just
thing that looks pretty obvious or evident, is like, okay, you're willing to put it out there. See, because you said it, I started writing about it, I started talking about it, and then well,
yeah.
now we're talking to people that are like very interior and very reclusive. They're come and we're saying, look, I mean, you don't even know what's going on until you start to express yourself. I mean, can we say that, Doreen? Because I mean, this seems to be like
Yeah,
the fire that was under you that made you kind of like start to see and start to cook.
yeah. And the thing is there's nothing you can do to stop that fire, or nothing you can do to say, okay, now I'm going to go do such and such. I mean, it's like being possessed by this new energy, so to speak. I mean, it became automatic. Just found myself doing a lot of different things that I could not have stopped if you paid
Yeah, but
me.
why? Why? Because like it's not
It
the
couldn't.
norm.
It,
It's
it,
not the norm. I mean, people don't really
I
express
had people
themselves.
wanting to. I had people wanting to put me away for a period of time with this whole thing.
Are you?
Not just talking about the love, but I mean just like my awakening experiences. It just it They came and I experienced them, and this was like eventually the words started coming out. You know, it's nothing of my will. Nothing. There is no will. Not a choice.
Is there a will to say no? Because it seems like we can say no, and we can limit our life, and we can not go out, and we can cross over the road so we don't have to talk to somebody, and we can, it seems like we can
Everything
say
hap-
no.
Everything happens naturally, intuitively, intuition. So when intuition is totally relied on, it it there's no like pre-decisions or pre-thoughts, or I mean, when you're in the now, it's all there is, and there is no this body, my speaking. It's just a flow, and the yeses and nos are completely appropriate to whatever situation I'm in each moment. It just, there's no,
Yeah,
does that make any sense?
okay, but I mean, that's with you now, right? I mean, in my memory about
Yeah,
myself, or like when I look at other people, it seems like there's a tendency that seems to play out because it seems like I've seen that before, right? And so that tendency is over and over and over again. And if I push on it, maybe it even gets stronger. And so then I say, no, back off of it, right? And then just let it run. Somebody else's tendency or my tendency to how I usually interact with it. But because of that repetition, you would think that it's not spontaneous and it's not to be trusted upon, but it really is conditioning, and it really is
yeah,
robotic action, right? And
yeah,
and so then to say I just trust it. Okay, some people just say meet everything. So then even your robotness, you got to meet it, right? I'm not so sure if you realize that it's a robotness. You could say, well, maybe I don't need this
yeah,
right now.
yeah. The conditioning has a way of. There was something in me. I mean, so say for my experience. Now, this is, I imagine, my experience is completely different from somebody else's. So I had a lot of chaos happen during an awakening experience. And there was a vision, a seeing of no matter what, all is well. No matter what, like that total devastation could happen, but somehow I knew all is well. And that one feel that central knowing slowly, slowly, slowly. I mean, it was in the background to everything that I was experiencing, everything that was happening to me. And there was a feeling of go with, people talk about resistance. I don't really understand that concept, actually, because there was never something mental dialogue going on with me that says, don't do this, stop this, whatever. It was like I was just recognizing when my body felt stress, and that slowly, 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 in every situation, the pit in my stomach just started to disappear, till one day my husband's angry at me and there's no longer a reaction in the body. It just didn't come up anymore. I mean, that process, I was like aware of that there's this feeling in my stomach that this is stress, this is tight, I don't like this feeling. And there wasn't anything I could consciously do to avoid that feeling, I wasn't avoiding that feeling. It just came. It would just come. But eventually, it wasn't coming up anymore.
Yeah. So then this is like what people are classically saying. I mean, the sharing is that if you meet something, it can no longer find a harbor. It can't really find any place to hide, because you're just meeting whatever comes. And then you proved it, even not thinking that you were going to do it on purpose or anything, but somehow sounds like you couldn't avoid it. I mean, it was just there. And
you can't, no one can avoid it. I mean, that's the thing. You can't, there's nothing. I'm just I firmly know, for me at least, there's nothing you can do. I mean, and that doesn't mean that doing is constantly happening. This is the confusion that people have, because they feel helpless with that statement. And it's actually, when you're living that, and you're in complete surrender. Yeah. Surrender happens, and then, and I just feel that's, I don't know how to explain it. The only thing that overlays what we do in our life is a mental recycling of our conditioning in our head, this and that, when that, so in other words, we're always going through this process of surrender, in what we do in our life. Every step has to be what it is. Without every fall, every misstep, whatever you want to call it, because there are no mistakes, there are no missteps. Everything is crucial to being here right now. So that's seen retrospectively, though. Yet.
Okay, let me try to say a couple of things, okay,
Okay.
At a certain point, you see there's a lot of conditioning going on and a lot of robotic action, right? And then when you hear that, every one of those robotic actions is necessary, right? And you think, oh God,
Mm-hmm.
really?
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
also, like every bit of your seeing those robotic actions and then, in a way, outgrowing them is also necessary to outgrow, to just realize, oh, I don't have to be a robot, but I mean, I can because, like, why not? I think about it a lot. I got a lot of cameras and computers and stuff, and I can just let my robot hook them all up, right? And usually it works. And
Well,
I don't mind that, I mean, but someone else, I could probably
yeah.
take it that, oh, I'm living a less of a life because I'm doing robotic action here. So then a robot might be appropriate sometimes to consign some work to it. I mean, okay, when I tie my shoe, am I really present or not? I mean, I don't know. I mean, so
It,
therefore, if I'm not really present, where am I? I'm on a thought somewhere, right? Like if I'm hooking all my wires up and my robot is hooking them up, where am I? I'm probably thinking, oh, this is going to be such a great interview, or I'll be talking to somebody that's so wonderful and so open and so relaxed, or I'll be thinking like so many people are going to watch this. This is going to really make a difference in a lot of people's lives. And so then what's happening, like my heart is opening up, to what my work is, and my robot is actually doing the work, right? And now, am I limited from that or not? I mean, I'm not so sure. Maybe I should just be in there and saying wire A goes into slot B, you know, ding dong, and just be in there
that
with it has a certain feel to it, like a Buddhist washing the dishes to wash the dish, right? Feeling the wire, uncoiling it. I uncoil them pretty nicely, but maybe my robot does too. But then, I mean, if I'm always angry every day, at some point in some day, that's a kind of a robotic action that really is probably not appropriate for every day. I mean, how could it be that I was always in a place where I had to get mad? So then that's another kind of a robotic action that you could say it's perfect and for your unfolding, but also you're seeing it is perfect for your unfolding, and you're putting it aside and saying, I don't need it anymore. How could I possibly be angry? Just like you said, that everybody I see them at birth. I see their innocent self, you
yeah.
know. And then others would say, I see them at death. Maybe I see that their innocent self at death, at this vulnerable place, where the noise of life and the noise of sureness and the noise of their head that says, I know what I'm doing, is not there so much. And it's perfect, but it's also perfect to see through it too, is what I'm probably trying to say there. Every
Uh,
action, so many actions are not spontaneous. I'm saying the actions come from yesterday. That's just a repeat. And those ones are, they're not perfect. They
yeah, but
suck.
they're not exactly repeats though. When you think about it, like, okay, so if I say in 10 minutes, I'm going to get up and, okay, so say I'm just by myself in the house and I'm thinking, okay, 5 minutes from now, I would like to go and put the tea kettle on. In 5 minutes, I'll do that. But within those 5 minutes, the telephone rings and you go and you pick up the telephone, and then somebody saying, oh, your son's hurt and you have to go meet us here at the hospital, etc. Right? So, in other words, the thought about your actions being robotic, I mean, that's part of the story. Because in reality, how you end up actually moving doesn't match your thoughts about it.
Okay, let me just go to another thing
So,
then.
so,
Let me try this one
so,
out for size because it's right in there,
so it's like,
Let's say you have a thought that in 5 minutes I want to put the tea kettle on, right?
uh-huh.
Okay, but and okay, let's say we're talking, but you're thinking when this is over, I'm going to put the tea kettle on. Okay, in a way, that thought impoverished our contact. because
Well,
why were
that
you leaving?
too.
Why were you
That
leaving? Why were you leaving me just for a thought about a tea kettle? Okay, whatever you were doing, it wasn't me in that case. It was reading a book, or dusting, or just looking at the things on the shelf and relaxing and saying.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're
in
out
a
of the
way,
present moment.
in a way,
You're not in.
that tea kettle thought, okay, maybe you just get up and you won't even know what you're doing, and then the tea kettles will be there, and you say, "Oh, light the fire,"
So actually, in a way, living in the present moment is a little bit robotic because you're not thinking ahead of anything, about anything, doing anything. Like you said, yeah, I wouldn't have had that thought in 5 minutes, I'm going to go do that. Any longer, I don't have those. I used to have those thoughts, and they never worked out because I tested it out at one point. Anybody's thought about anything to the future, it never turns out the way you planned it at all. Like it just doesn't, it doesn't move that way. It doesn't really look like what you're thinking is going to happen in the future. Because the future, well, there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, the future never comes. There is no future, and that is lived. I lived that way. I don't even plan anything. I mean, I could if I'm planning something like I'm in an art show right now in England, and I knew like I knew ahead of time the date that it would open, but it's not like everything that has to do with that plan is happening in the present. Only the mind goes into those things of the future and gets stuck there, so to speak, because
can get stuck there.
Can get stuck
I like to go
there.
back and forth, because then you're totally free, and we are living a life of agreement too, which is a whole mind trip, and there's really no way to get out of it, unless you're really at a point in your life where you're not, if you're totally present, probably you need a caretaker too. And so
If
we
you're
don't
totally
yeah, because you don't know anything, like what do
No,
you
no,
know?
that's not how it works, though. That's not how it works, though. That's the beauty of it. That's not it's like way more efficient than I've ever been in my life. It, it's bizarre. That's what the mind would imagine, that you're not, if you're just being in the present, that you just don't like do anything, or it's just not like that. It's just that there's no, I like to say, pre-thought. There's no, like, it just is in sync. It's a synergy. It's like you have this intelligence, like your intuition is like just the driving force with your heart, so to speak. It's coming from there.
Well, you can, you might think it's a sign of aging, because you get to a point where you start doing everything that's in front of you, you do it, right? And then, like, you don't necessarily finish a task because, there's a thing you can pick up and put in the garbage on the way or something like that, and then
That doesn't happen,
yeah,
though. That's just, no,
yeah.
that doesn't happen. Those distractions don't happen because I can't explain it. It's like, look, I was an artist from, the time I was a child, or, high school. I got serious about it. And I produced a lot of work over the years, but it was painful, sort of, to do my artwork because I was thinking about it too much. I was thinking about it so much that I wasn't able to really just express. And I always wanted that freedom to just feel like I'm expressing, And then I got it. I got that freedom. And now it's like I've just produced so much more, and all the things that I produced in the past are actually look great, and it's almost like they're fresh again because I see them with new eyes. It's just so freaking exciting, you know? It's like being, it's new all the time. And I don't know.
I was thinking shift gears a little bit, and
Okay.
to make another subject because I've been on this Eckhart Tolle forum. This will be maybe the fourth time. I'm not so sure, and coming on Monday. So then each time, I guess we have a theme or something that I've been lucky enough to been asked what should we do for a theme, right? And so since Paul Lowe lives around here and he's a guy that I've always been interested in, I kind of
Uh-huh.
pointed the theme toward him. And now there's a suggestion up that although our life is full of many, many activities and hence many behaviors, that we probably, there's a suggestion or a hypothesis that we have one that we favor. And when we don't really know what to do and aren't sure what's appropriate, we go back to that one. And for me, I don't know, I like to get intention. So that seems to be one of my favorites. And however I have to do it to wrestle people's attention, I make movies and then on one-on-one situations, I kind of am intense, like I'm, I don't know, maybe that's enough for that right now. But anyhow, that seems to be one of my behaviors, right? And so then if that's one of my favorite behaviors and it comes up often, well, it probably isn't always appropriate because, I'm not always in the same situation. And especially if that's something that came a long time ago, maybe it was appropriate then, maybe it wasn't. And the suggestion is if you identify this kind of like your favorite way to be, which could be lovey-dovey or, serving, or it could be like being the mother, or it could be like, accepting a lot of abuse and seeing that you're transparent to it and it can just pass through you, but somehow you're always where the daggers are flying. Or it could be angers and depressions and frustrations and all those kind of things you normally categorize as negative. So then the suggestion is that maybe underneath there's some kind of a original wound or something like that. And that's kind of masking that. In other words, it's an opposite behavior. If I'm angry, really I'm frightened, Or if I'm frightened, well, I don't know what would be the opposite of that. But if I'm always scared and I must be feeling like I'm about to die or something, or that I don't have a life force or something like that, or I'm always under threat, or I don't know. So then, if you can identify that behavior, then the wound starts to show its face, right? And then, like you said, that you feel this knot or whatever happens when something occurs. Whenever something occurs, there's a feeling there. And then if you don't have that behavior that you usually used to put on top of it and then hide it, then the suggestion is maybe you'll feel it like you shared that was happening to you continuously until all that stuff dissolved. And so then if that stuff dissolved, then the hypothesis that is suggested for Monday's meeting is that whatever's down below there, our original self or somehow our source or somehow our spirit or something very deep and very tender might show itself. Well, it's not that it'll show itself, it's just that we'll see that it's there, right? Because these masking behaviors and wounds are somehow felt and met, right? And I don't know, maybe it's something that will always unfold. There's no arrival point, right? I don't know how you like that. I mean, are you arrived or are you always unfolding?
Well, I don't know if there's always unfolding, but I think that
is there always meeting also?
Yeah, there always. I feel like once the wounds are dissolved, you can't conjure them back up again. I really don't think that it's not really, I don't think, I know. I mean, there's ever deepening in your awareness or whatever you call it. There's always deepening because
Well, I can see
it's
what you're saying,
endless.
you
I
know.
mean,
Yeah, I can see what you're saying because sometimes it seems like certain practices are conjuring up wounds, you know, and it kinds of, to me, it felt like really useless, you know, like I don't want to get involved with that, you know, and try to trigger myself and all that. But this is a little different in that it's just peeling away a behavior that seems to be dominant, right? And then whatever else is there, it's not really, if it doesn't come up, you don't have to conjure it. You just leave it blank, you know.
yeah, I
But
mean, those
but I
things
want
will
to,
come up
yeah.
on their own. They come up on their own, you know, and then, I mean,
Well, how about this
you
though?
know,
But I mean, there might be various layers of behavior to peel off, right? And they could be actually behaviors that we like. I mean, I like all my behaviors actually. Outwardly, I think I love them. I love them, and so that means I'm identified with them, right? And so if I can peel them back, it doesn't mean to throw them on the floor and step on them or nothing. It just means to acknowledge. That's
I
all it means.
I think if you love some of your behaviors, it's like there's not a problem. I mean, so if you love your behaviors and you also, for me, the barometer is just like, do I feel any stress in my body? And there is no stress in my body. So it's like there's no there's no problem with enjoying yourself, you know? I mean, if you have behaviors that you enjoy, loving what you do is fine, right?
I think so.
It's gotta be, yeah. I mean, if not, we'll go nuts. Like
Well, I
get your
mean, it's a
back
real
the other
pathology to
way.
hate what you do. You know, it seems to be a real pathology to hate what you do. You could be maybe neutral, you know, and say, you know, because when people say I'm not the doer and whatever shows up to me, whatever I find my hands doing, I surrender to it. And that's kind of like a spiritual concept, right? And then there's no
Yeah, it
preference.
doesn't.
There's no
It
fear, but there's
doesn't
no
work.
preference, you know. I don't believe it, but anyhow.
Yeah, but it's sort of like an intuitive preference. You just sort of like in the place you want to be. Like I knit copper wire and I just love it. And uh, I'm confused. Why would I
Well, yeah. Well,
want to
you could
change
know a
that
direction.
behavior?
You could know a direction, right? You could say, okay, I can tell a difference between giving back and coming to get, you know, and take something for me. You know, I need something. I can tell the difference between neediness and abundance, right? And I feel abundant right now. I've got a lot of energy. I want to speak to Doreen, and I want to love her and see her, and you know, if you know, I'm not helping her see herself, but just like she said, she used to write. She's a journalist, not really, but she said she wrote and expressed, and that was a fire that let her see herself. And so then I'm part of that writing and expressing, and then I feel that's a giving back, and then I feel your willingness to share that is also a giving to everybody out there that says, oh, I'm in the same situation. Maybe I'll start writing too, or you know, however they'll do it, right? And then meeting, they'll
Yeah,
start to meet, you know, because you said so many things that are
yeah.
so fantastic, you know. Okay, the one you said is that you noticed anxiety in your body, and you just start noticing it, and I noticed that too. I just
Hmm.
decided I'm not going there anymore. And so then if there's a charge on something, I just do that something, but that charge part, I just say I don't need you, goodbye, you know. And I'm just not going to do anything that's anxiety based activities, right? And that doesn't mean I'm going to steer myself out of the fire, you know, or stay off the street. I'm going to go into the street and just show myself and show others that, you know, the anxiety isn't really hooked to the street, it's just hooked to you.
because so many of our behaviors that were causing anxiety were also like because they were not in our true nature to be doing, you know? I mean, that's why we have anxiety. I mean, anxiety is a great, if once you recognize it in you, it's a barometer.
It's a weather vane.
It's very, yeah, it's like saying, you know, why do I feel so this incredible discomfort in this thing I'm doing, and I'm not loving what I'm doing, and you know,
Let's take it one
is it?
step farther. Let's just say the anxiety has nothing to do with what you're doing. Absolutely nothing. It's just a thought.
Well,
It's a vibration
it
you picked
that's
up in the family and in life and the school life and the cultural life,
yeah, it's all
and
beliefs
everything is just
basically.
anxiety because that's the way you know who you are. You know, force, force, force. That energy is there, and as long as that energy is there, that's going to keep reproducing itself. And it's not that the activity you're doing or any activity you're doing, even if you're a police sting officer and have to go arrest people or something, you know, there's no anxiety in it. It's the anxiety is the baggage you bring with it. How about that? I mean, I don't. I'm
Well,
not
that's
declaring
true.
that. I'm not declaring it, but I'm throwing it up on the table and saying, take a look.
No, but that's true. That's true that it's based on a belief. Like if you, so the doing of something that you believe you're supposed to be doing or whatever, or, you know, you, you're conditioned that I'm supposed to do this because it's the right thing to do or whatever. Um, so there's always a thought, there is a thought process going on with that. Not even, it's not even a process, it's just a conditioned thought, conditioned thinking that's um, beliefs, really beliefs. To
Well, you
go
know,
from,
like a
you
belief would
know,
be that you can't do anything of importance without force, right? And so
yeah,
then that force would have to show up as a squeezing or some kind of ugh, you know, and then pushing
hmm
your way
hmm
through, and then you know all the belief in good and evil, and that I'm going to try to be good, so I have to burst through evil, right? And I have to burst the
hmm
evil,
hmm
or there's opposition out there. There's a whole belief in opposition, and so then I've got to be stronger or quicker or more subtle or more convincing, or somehow you know, it's a whole belief in force, and then if you're not forceful enough, then it's like you're missing the boat, right? You're missing the opportunity. You're not good enough. You won't get the raise. You won't get hired, you know, and then
right,
your whole life will go downhill from there, you
right.
know.
It's all like just not seeing that you are enough as you are, no matter what you are doing.
It's all about
So,
preconceptions of where you want to be that it ain't, it's not here, right? And then naturally, all these kind of like
yeah,
artificial arrivals are going to be part of your body with this artificial goal to get somewhere else, which you're not. So then, I don't know.
yeah. I mean, it's all about not wanting to be here now. It, and the ironic part is like just being here now is all you ever want once you're
Yeah.
here.
And it starts as
That's all
subtle
you
as
want.
trying to think of 5 minutes later, I'm going to put on the kettle. It could start as subtle as that, right? I don't want to be here now,
I
so
think
I'll peel
that's just,
away.
I mean, well, I think, I wonder if people could recognize, I've tested this on a friend of mine, whether he could recognize this idea about what happens between the time you have that thought and 5 minutes from now. What happens in that space of five, quote unquote, 5 minutes that changes what's actually going to happen, you see? Like, so just like, it's just another way to try to see it in the sense, or not even try to see it, I don't know, a way to see that so much of what we believe in our activity is just thoughts about it, and I don't know how to explain that at all. I mean, I can't talk about it that much. It's really hard to talk about it, because that it it involves too much thinking about it.
What's too much thinking? Give me that
Well,
one.
I don't
What's
know,
too
like
much
to make
thinking?
concepts. I don't want to make concepts up about it. Like
Yeah, well,
it's
make
a,
them because
it's
we
a.
want a new one. The old ones, don't use the
I
old ones,
don't
but make some new ones.
no. I want to go. I want like. So my wish is that just well, people let's start to rely more on you know the gut feelings and the heart space.
We all have a relationship somewhere. We have at least one, we have many relationships. And somehow we're able to be with other people to a certain extent. And then it gets to be too much. I don't know why, but that's not the question actually at this point. But, and we have a certain capacity to receive what's in front of us, especially with another person. And then I guess people have a certain capacity to receive us, and maybe we want to be received more. And something about being received, we go to a guru for that, or we go to a teacher, or we go to satsang, or we hoping that, I don't know, where they say it's a space, and they say that these teachers see us in our perfect self or our perfect way. And this is all lore, This is kind of like, we're just saying that to go and be received, and somehow who's receiving you is so pure that they see your higher self. Somehow that allows that higher self to sneak out. Well, not it's there anyhow, but it allows that lower self to kind of like settle down, maybe is what it allows, or something like that. And then that so-called higher self is more evident to us. And so then we even doing that among ourselves, we're receiving each other. Up to the point we've been received before, we've never maybe been received for more than a minute or something like that. Or every time we put in, get in front of somebody that has a counter behavior, and then we're waltzing together. We're doing our thing and they're doing their thing, and then we don't really know where what we're doing, because we think, that how the feelings are there that are coming through, right? And we're doing our thing, and then the receiving person is doing their thing, and we're saying, well, I'm feeling this feeling because of you wiggling like that. You're doing your thing, and we don't see. But if we were just received by this guru and he was still, and then we're doing our thing, and then we have a feeling and we say, oh, why did I do that? Because he's not doing it for sure. He's just doing nothing, And so then that's called received, I don't know. Is that kind of making sense?
Ah,
Sorta, huh?
well, I don't any longer like giving and receiving to me are like the same energy. It's the same thing. And I see like that you're receiving yourself. Like it's the both energies like are merging within you. And that at first you believe like you need to receive something from somebody else, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's nothing. It's all part of unfolding into yourself.
Yeah. Okay, let me just go.
I mean,
go for it. Yeah.
No, well, I mean, what I mean is that it's like a self-sufficient thing, but at first you need. It's okay to feel received by someone else, another being.
Well, okay. Let me get more clear on it, because of course, when you're a kid, when you're a kid, in the way you're conditioned, you're being conditioned, right? And so then, if you clean up your room, you're received in a better way. So that's one kind of receiving, feeling like somebody's going to give you a gift, But what I'm saying is like, okay, when somebody receives you in a pure state, like in a stillness, then you are exactly what you said, able to see yourself, right? Because you know it's clearly
Mm-hmm.
yourself, right? And so then
Yeah.
it doesn't really happen very often, you know. And one good way to be received or to communicate or to be with the other is to kind of gaze in each other's eyes, right? And then how long, I mean, then you can say, oh, it's a staring contest, right? And then I'm not going to be the first to blink, right? And but you know, you are going to have a thought because that was a thought right there. Oh, it's a staring contest, right? And so then you, in a way, you're peeling away. And so then you peel away when you say, oh, I'm going to put the teapot on in 5 minutes, you know. But this isn't good enough, so somehow I can't stay with this. Now I have to share now that, like, I've just had this experience for this last week or a little bit more now that I'm with Rena, and somehow Rena and I have really no barriers.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we receive each other like just out of stillness, and both our lives are like, well, they're bubbling actually, you know. I mean, and we're seeing it, and then you know maybe we're even into a period now where you know we're starting to feel it, like feeling all kinds of funny feelings, saying, "Whoa, I used to be so calm and stable and have it together," you know, and this is all this stuff is agitating because we're seeing each other because we can sit. You know, it's not a staring contest. We're just sitting there and we're just looking at each other. And for me, like Rena's morphing into all these kind of looks, like every woman in the world is she, you know, somehow, I don't know, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
crazy. Maybe we're in a candlelight too much or something. I don't know what, but it's like, so then I feel like there's some kind of a receiving that's happening that really we have to shut off the switch because there's no automatic peeling away. And, and then I don't know. I mean, is it if that seems to be a huge value, right? I mean, we go even to India and join an ashram just for that, and we see the guy only once every 2 days, right? And somehow believe that we're being received in there, but yet we could do it every minute with everybody, with the grocery clerk, you know, and somehow it does take that stillness and not having a lot of interpretations and not having a lot of reactions. And then there might not even be a lot of responses, you know, because the response is appropriate or it isn't, or it's not even needed, you know. But
Yeah.
the reactions are the ones that are always there, kind of like blocking the reception, right? I mean, now I'm more clear, right? Because before you were saying received, you got to receive yourself. That's exactly what I'm talking about, you know. But I mean, it's
Yeah.
somehow facilitated through the other, the so-called other or the apparent other.
Mm-hmm.
So then the normal life, you know, where you're right and I'm wrong, or I'm wrong and you're right, or something, or like even how we banter around sometimes on the forum, you know, and we give our thing, and but we really don't give in, right? Like a lot of times people say, nobody can, you know, I can't say anything to anybody, right? We can lead them to water, but they're not going to drink anyhow. So, and we're not even leading them to water. We're just saying water, and he says, no, no, mirage, mirage. That's not even water. And so then that kind of interaction is less valuable, probably. It's more common. And I suppose just like when you said I can recognize, I just started to recognize anxiety when it showed up, you know. Okay, you can just recognize, and when there's always a deflection, let's say, you know, a deflection. And then, okay, we've been kind of using these code words, but, you know, we can realize that the whole mental aspect is to gain an understanding. And a so-called understanding is like where we can hang something on a hook and walk away, right? And until we can hang it on the hook and say, I understand, then we're either agreeing or disagreeing, or, you know, that's all moving toward the understanding. And then that's a certain level of interaction, really, that doesn't go very deep, and it's built on separation, and it promotes a continued separation. And the whole understanding is a myth anyhow, that I understand anything is a myth. But, you know, we say that the words themselves don't mean a damn thing. And
Mm-hmm.
until you discover that, God, what do I really know? If I don't know anything, there's no Richard, you know. I can't know Richard either. There's really nobody around here. And then that's what happens when we're gazing at each other, and then we're receiving each other. Like there's really nothing happening here. and there's behaviors to be watched, and there's stillness to participate in, and there's thoughts that flutter through, and sometimes you can say a couple of words, and then a whole raft of images will come raining down, and you can say, I don't need all those images. Like all the possibilities and where we can take it from here and how we can get together and what we can do over there. And we could fill the whole screen with full of images and promises and things, or we could just leave it all out and just say, like, we're just raw potential, right? Anything can happen, but, right now it's stillness. And somehow that comes out of being received by yourself, being received by the universe. What's your experience on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the oneness that is how it's felt, how it's experienced. How do you, it's how we're merging into that. I mean, it has to happen. It happens within yourself, and then in life with other beings.
Can you do that in your life? Can you receive your son just in a pure way, or do you scold him and tell him to do? Now remember what you're supposed to do. Do your homework.
No, absolutely not. Yes, I totally receive him. Totally, like it's just complete. Yeah, it's amazing.
I have the intention to interact with some young people. I'm thinking in this coming week maybe I'll get 5 or 6 or more talks with people in their 20s.
Yeah.
And I really want to show that to all of us. What's
Yeah.
going on with the youth, and that we're probably in good hands. Maybe it's time to give over the reins, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, why? Yeah, they know. They know. There's so many of my kids' friends. They're just. They blow my mind. They blew my mind, actually. So literally, I mean, I learned, I mean, because the things that they come up with, it's like, wow, how do you know that? Like, just.
Yet I also have another feeling. I have a feeling that just my being there could be grounding. Maybe grounding for both of us, I'm sure, but it could be grounding. Grounding just means like coming in, coming into this moment, and. I don't know. I feel that somehow I could be of a value.
You are as important as they are. I mean, doing the dance of the interview, etc. I mean, like if you feel you want to go do that and be with these kids, and that's an important aspect in everyone's unfoldment.
Sometimes we talk of grounding as energetic. It's like done energetically, and it could be done with some kind of Reiki or some kind of like dance or some kind of movements or yogas or things like that. And then certain grounding can happen that way. But I think grounding in many ways is verbal. In other words, like airing and ungrounding is verbal. And then if you can deflate those verbs, maybe. Boom, you fall back down, and say, oh, okay, I'll be here instead. Why not, And so
I like to hover a little bit above the ground.
Yeah, right. A lot of people like to hover, right?
I don't, I mean, I don't know. Both of those words never really are like in the air or in the ground, being grounded. I never really intellectually understood them. Really.
Well, intellectually means air means like you're in a lot of thoughts, and you can be anywhere in the world, in the universe. You could be on another galaxy in your thoughts.
But those are, when you are in those, it's not always thoughts. I mean, can't you be in it just in like if you're in bliss or something, you're in the air, I guess.
I don't know. I don't know about that too much, but anyhow, mostly
Well,
we're
anyway, I
Earth.
mean,
You
the
know,
thing,
we're Earth for sure because we were born in the Earth.
yeah,
We eat the Earth. We die in the Earth. Our time is
the
all
thing,
Earth based. You know, like 24 hours and 4 seasons and 95 years and all that stuff is all totally Earth. You know, it has nothing to do with
yeah.
the universe. The Earth is in the universe, but all those kind of things of all those aspects of humanity, our lifespan and all that is all Earth. And so
Well,
then
you also
Earth,
have an inner universe, though.
pardon?
But don't forget the inner universe.
Go on that one a little bit. Let's have it.
Well, is that the saying, as above, so below? I mean, inside, outside. The
Oh yeah.
universe
Okay, they say that,
is
but
with
Rena's got some
within you. Is
drawers that
within
are a
you.
total mess, but she's also got some empty
So
ones.
what?
So she's got
So
some empty
what?
ones too. So what does it mean? We don't know what that means.
Who cares about the drawers?
Well, if you're looking for a screwdriver, it's hell.
Yeah, but like for example, I know where everything is in my house, but it doesn't. It won't look like somebody else would like it to look. I like the way it looks.
Well, I can't
I
find
mean,
my
I
blue
know
tape,
where.
and that's the second time I can't find my blue tape. So
But so that has to do with air and ground. I don't know. I don't know. Just I like them both. I like them both. I want both of those things in my life, grounding and air, the spaciousness
to me, grounding is
and
presence. Grounding is presence to me, and that's another
all
word
right.
for it.
Well, it's always
And
present.
air
It's
is
always
scattered.
your feet
Air
are
is
on
scattered.
your feet are on the ground and your head's in the clouds. It's perfect.
Oh yeah, that's Aboriginal too. It's a marriage of the Father Sky and the Mother Earth, right?
That,
And then they
I'm
say
glad you brought
energy's in
that.
the sky.
Glad
It
you
must be
brought that
energy or
up.
something, huh?
I'm glad you brought that up because I just wrote something today on Mother Earth and Father Sky.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
It's
I think you can do a lot on the earth, though, because you can meet the sky from the earth, but you can't meet the sky from the sky or from the air. You're not really meeting the sky. And so then somehow the earth, I think you need a reference point in your life,
it's
People that say there's no reference point needed, I don't have to be from any location. I'm like in the netherworld, or I'm in the internet, or I'm in. They can't meet anything, They're just
but I'm
totally
here. I'm right
disconnected,
here,
right?
right here.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
But did you not think it was Yoko Ono? You're walking in the sky, right? I mean, the sky definitely meets the earth. It's not just the blue or the whatever. It comes right down
yeah,
and it blankets us.
yeah. Life is more and
Yeah.
more simple for me, right? It's just more and more simple, and that's my sharing, probably. And then if we do our little process on Monday, and somehow I find an original wound, and then there's something marvelous underneath there when I meet it, uh, that's So then we can look into our behaviors, and then when the main one is off, we can peel the second one or third one or fourth one off, and then later we could say, hey, I don't even have a behavior. I'm just every moment new. And then there's no Richard.
Well, not to the outside world there will be a Richard, but to your inside world there is not a Richard. Like for me, it's like uh, there. I no longer identify with a Doreen as I can't define my personality, for example. I can't, but somebody else can. But it doesn't matter to me. Like I don't. There's nothing.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, pure meeting. Like I'm here with you. I'm not defining anything,
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
heard you a couple times on the internet, on the Skype conference call, and so then I could bring that definition with me. But I mean,
Yeah.
Basically, when I try to meet someone, I try to keep it as wide as possible, and not even trying to push it and say, I'm seeing your perfect self, I'm seeing your original self, and all that hocus pocus stuff. I'm just trying to just tune in, kind of tune in and say, well, what's here, what's here in this moment, and not having any preconceptions. I might not do it very well, but that's what pops in as a kind of like a intention.
Hmm.
It's really fun to meet you, Doreen.
Yeah, it's
I
fun to
mean,
meet you
you're
too.
gorgeous, actually. You're really
Thank
beautiful.
you.
You're such a
Oh,
radiant
thank
being
you.
and so shiny.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm glad that it comes across that way.
yeah, yeah. It comes across that way. I'm
That's
sure
good.
everybody
That's good. That's good.
loves you, totally loves you. So
Huh?
let's just
It
thank
just,
everybody for coming and watching us, and just
yeah,
contemplating the things that we like to contemplate. And
yeah.
then
I love it.
our blessing to everyone that if this could be useful, you're welcome to it. If not, we'll try again tomorrow.
Keep trying, but don't try.
Right on. Yeah, we're not trying, but we hook up the wires good. Thanks everybody for coming. Thanks for visiting Never
Thank
Not Here.
you.
Thanks for coming to Australia, even though we're in Boston. And and thank you, Doreen.
Thank you, Richard.
Namaste for sure.
Namaste. For sure.